a man in chains, property, a thing to be bought and sold. And yet this slave would one day own more wealth than the emperor himself. The most powerful philosophy ever written came from a man who owned nothing. His name was Epictetus. Born into slavery in the Roman Empire, he couldn't even control when he ate or slept. His master once twisted his leg so brutally that Epictetus was crippled for life. And his response? He smiled. True freedom is internal. What he discovered in those chains would later influence Marcus Aurelius, shape Stoic philosophy, and echo through 2,000 years of human thought. How does a slave become richer than emperors? Not in gold, in something far more valuable. And the answer will make you question everything you think you know about freedom, wealth, and power. Born in chains. Around 50 AD in the Greek city of Hierapolis, a child was born with no name. He was given one by his owner, Epictetus. It literally means acquired. Not a name, a label, a receipt. From the moment he could walk, he belonged to Epictetus, a wealthy freedman who served in Emperor Nero's court. We are not disturbed by events, but by the views we take of them. Imagine growing up knowing that your body, your time, your very existence belongs to someone else. You cannot leave, you cannot refuse, you cannot even choose your own thoughts without risk. Most slaves broke under this weight. They became bitter, violent, or simply empty. But something different happened inside young Epictetus. While other slaves dreamed of escape or revenge, he began asking a different question. Not how do I get free, but rather, what does freedom actually mean? Question everything you know. This question would change everything. And it started with a broken leg. The broken leg. One day Epictetus was twisting Epictetus's leg. Whether punishment or cruelty, history doesn't say. But the young slave, feeling his bone beginning to crack, said calmly, "If you continue, you will break it." Epictetus continued. The leg snapped. And Epictetus, according to the ancient accounts, simply said, "I told you so." Unbreakable. No screaming, no begging, no hatred, just observation. This moment became the foundation of everything Epictetus would later teach. He couldn't control his master's cruelty. He couldn't control the pain. He couldn't control being crippled for life. But he could control his response. He could control his judgment of the situation. And in that control, he found something his master would never have. True freedom that no one could ever take away. Epictetus owned Epictetus's body, but he never owned his mind. If this story of radical inner freedom is changing how you see your own struggles, hit like and subscribe for more forgotten wisdom that shaped our world. Because what Epictetus discovered next transformed philosophy forever. The secret teacher. Despite being a slave, Epictetus was allowed to attend lectures. His master Epictetus, perhaps seeing intelligence worth cultivating, permitted him to study under Musonius Rufus, the greatest Stoic teacher in Rome. No man is free who is not master of himself. Think about this. A crippled slave hobbling through the streets of Rome, entering lecture halls filled with senators' sons and wealthy elites. They looked down on him, literally and figuratively. But Epictetus absorbed everything. He learned that the Stoics divided all things into two categories, things within our control and things outside our control. Your body, outside your control. It can be chained, broken, killed. Your possessions, outside your control, they can be taken. Your reputation, outside your control, people will believe what they choose. But your thoughts, your judgments, your will, inside your control always. This simple division became the most powerful psychological tool ever created. And Epictetus, the slave, understood it better than any free man, because he had nothing else. This philosophy didn't make chains comfortable. It made them irrelevant. Freedom at last. In 68 AD, Emperor Nero committed suicide. His household scattered, and somewhere in the chaos, Epictetus was freed. After nearly 2 decades of slavery, he was legally his own man. But here's what's remarkable. For most freed slaves, liberation was everything. The goal, the dream, the end of suffering. For Epictetus, it was almost secondary. He had already freed himself years before. The legal document just made it official. What he did next proves this. He didn't pursue wealth. He didn't seek revenge. He didn't try to accumulate the power that had been denied to him. Instead, he opened a school, teaching slaves and emperors the same truth. In a small room in Rome and later in Nicopolis after being banished by Emperor Domitian, Epictetus began teaching what he had learned in chains. His students came from everywhere, slaves seeking hope, nobles seeking wisdom, and eventually the most powerful man in the world. But that comes later. First, we need to understand what Epictetus was actually teaching. The dichotomy. Epictetus taught with brutal simplicity. He would look at his students and ask, "What do you control?" They would answer, "My property, my health, my career," and he would say, "Wrong, wrong, wrong. You control only your own mind and nothing else. Your property can be seized, your health can fail, your career can end. These things happen to good people every day. If your happiness depends on things outside your control, you are a slave, even if you wear a crown. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." This wasn't pessimism, it was liberation. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, something extraordinary happens. You stop being afraid. You stop being angry at fate. You stop wasting energy on battles you cannot win. Focus only on what you control, and you redirect that energy toward the one thing you can always change: how you respond to life. Epictetus had learned this in chains. Now he was teaching it to those who thought they were free. But the true test of his philosophy was coming. The emperor's copy. Epictetus never wrote a single word. Everything we have comes from his student Arrian, who transcribed his lectures into the Discourses and the Enchiridion. These texts spread through the Roman world like fire, and one copy found its way into the hands of a young prince named Marcus Aurelius. Destiny. Marcus was being groomed for the throne. He had the finest tutors in the empire, but it was the words of a former slave that transformed him. Marcus carried the Enchiridion everywhere. He quoted Epictetus in his private journal, which we now know as the Meditations. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Think about the irony. A slave's philosophy, written down by a student, traveling through time and space to shape the mind of an emperor. The chains were gone, but the wisdom remained eternal. When Marcus faced plague, war, betrayal, and death, he turned to Epictetus. When the weight of empire crushed him, he remembered the crippled slave who smiled while his leg was broken. The richest inheritance isn't gold, it's wisdom, true wealth. Now let's address the title directly. How did a slave become richer than his master? Epictetus, the man who broke Epictetus's leg, was wealthy by any measure. He owned property, slaves, position in the imperial court. He died forgotten. A footnote in history, remembered only because he owned someone more important than himself. Legacy outlasts gold forever. Epictetus died owning almost nothing: a lamp, a straw mat, and his teachings. Yet his wealth has compounded for 2,000 years. His ideas influenced Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the largest empire on earth. They influenced the founding of cognitive behavioral therapy, the most effective treatment for anxiety and depression. They influenced Nelson Mandela in prison, Admiral James Stockdale in a Vietnamese POW camp, and millions of ordinary people facing impossible circumstances. What is wealth if not impact that outlasts your life? What is poverty if not being forgotten the moment you die? Epictetus's master is remembered only for his cruelty. Epictetus is remembered for setting minds free. The modern slave. Here's where this becomes personal. You're not in chains. No one owns your body. You are legally free. But are you truly free? Or are you enslaved by things you don't even recognize? Epictetus would look at modern life and see slavery everywhere. Enslaved to other people's opinions, checking social media to see if you're approved, enslaved to anxiety about the future, losing sleep over things that haven't happened, enslaved to anger about the past, replaying arguments you cannot change, enslaved to comfort, avoiding anything difficult. The chains have changed, but slavery remains the same. Your phone can be a chain. Your need for approval can be a chain. Your fear of discomfort can be a chain. And just like ancient slaves, most people don't even know they're bound. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. The first step to freedom is seeing your chains. The second is realizing that you, and only you, hold the key. The practice. Epictetus didn't teach theory, he taught practice. Every morning he told his students to prepare for the day by imagining everything that could go wrong. Your plans might fail, people might insult you, things might break, and then ask, is this within my control? If yes, act. If no, accept. 1. Identify what you control. 2. Release what you cannot. 3. Act only on what matters. 4. Accept the rest with peace. This isn't passive resignation, it's strategic focus. Epictetus was ruthlessly practical. When a student complained about an unfair situation, Epictetus would ask, can you change it? If yes, then why are you complaining instead of acting? If no, then why are you complaining about what cannot be changed? Stop complaining, start acting. The practice is simple. The execution is hard. But every time you catch yourself suffering over something outside your control, you have an opportunity to practice the same mental discipline that let a slave smile while his leg was broken. This is how chains lose their power. The final lesson. Epictetus died around 135 AD in Nicopolis. He was approximately 85 years old. He had lived through slavery, torture, exile, and the rise and fall of emperors. And according to those who knew him, he died exactly as he had lived, at peace, a man who owned nothing yet lacked nothing. His final lesson wasn't something he said, it was something he demonstrated. Death, the ultimate thing outside our control, held no terror for him. He had practiced his whole life for that moment. Every insult he accepted without anger, every loss he accepted without despair, every limitation he accepted without bitterness. All of it was training. I cannot escape death, but at least I can escape the fear of it. His lamp, the only possession he valued, was sold after his death for 3,000 drachmas. People bought it hoping some of his wisdom would transfer. Immortal, they didn't need the lamp. They had his words. And those words, spoken by a crippled slave 2,000 years ago, are still setting people free today. Epictetus started with nothing, less than nothing. He was property, a thing. And yet he achieved something that emperors with all their legions could never secure: unshakable inner peace. Chains break, minds don't. The truth he discovered is as relevant now as it was 2,000 years ago. You will face things you cannot control: health problems, financial setbacks, people who treat you unfairly. You will suffer, not because you choose to, but because life includes suffering. But here's the question Epictetus would ask you right now. When suffering comes, will you be a slave to it, or will you be free within it? The answer determines everything about how you will live. His master Epictetus is remembered only for his cruelty. Epictetus is remembered for teaching the world that freedom isn't given, it's claimed. Not from others, from yourself. If you made it this far, comment "Inner Citadel" if you're ready to build the fortress that no one can breach. The truth is never comfortable, but it's always worth knowing. History has more to teach us. Subscribe if you want to learn. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant.